Hello, everyone. What's going on? This is the Noah Gillian Show, and I, of course, am your host, Noah Gillian. So happy you decided to join in today. Joining me on the show, dressed in full gear, is Connor Laverty, longtime contributor. What's going on?
It's a good day. It's a good day as a Philadelphia fan. Yeah, I'm happy, man. I'm in a good mood. Sun is shining. Sixers are off tonight. I don't have to be stressed. We're good. We're
It's a
good.
good day for a good day, dude. But it is the 10th of May, 2022. And like Connor kind of mentioned, we're going to get into the NBA playoffs and talk a little NBA as we get close to the conference finals. Before we get in the show, please hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. You can find all our social media handles in the description below, myself and Connor. And definitely shoot us any questions if you have any on social media or any of the likes, YouTube comments. We're ready to go with them. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it, Con. Let's just talk Sixers Celtics game five. A lot of nerves coming out in a game five, 2-2, pretty much a best of three series from then on. And the Sixers just came out and absolutely delivered. So let me get your feeling pregame and then how it evolved throughout the night.
I was surprisingly calm all day. I was busy, so I think I didn't really have time to sit around and think about how big of a game it really was, and that was good. So, because I probably would have gotten really, really worked up all day. But yeah, I mean, an hour before tip, I was just getting really excited, and I'll just come out and say it. I mean, I think I texted you this last night, but I think that's the best Sixers game I've ever watched in my lifetime. I don't know. It felt different. It just had a different type of feel to it. I just was pretty confident throughout the entire thing. And
Yeah.
obviously we can get into some different parts of the game, but just front to back, I just don't think I can recall a better Sixers game in the last 25 years.
It's definitely the most complete game I probably have watched them put together.
Now,
Especially
sorry to cut you off. I was 3 years old in 2001. So when I say the last 25 years, you can cut that 2001
right.
since
Check.
that finals run, but whatever. It's 22 years. Sorry.
Right, but especially in the Embiid era, more specifically the Doc Rivers administration, it's been one of their more complete games. All the stars showed up, all the role players showed up. Doc was pushing all the right buttons. It was the definition of just a wire to wire win. I mean, from the very start, I didn't even catch it. I was watching something else. I've missed the Embiid three right at the beginning of the game, shot clock running down, and it pretty much set the tone for the whole night because Tatum again really struggled to get it going early. We could talk about the Boston side of things in a few minutes because I'd love to kind of talk about their outlook, but yeah, and then they absolutely dominated. Maxey got off to a great start. Embiid had double digits in the first quarter, so that just totally set the tone. Tobias was aggressive. James was aggressive. I think that was the biggest thing that was the best to see because all your two dogs, Harden and Embiid, were active and aggressive. But they were open a majority of the game because Maxey had 5 threes. You know, Tobias must have had 20 points. I had the box score up here. Tobias had 16 points, 11 rebounds. And that was the one thing I wanted to touch on too, because it seemed like it was especially prevalent in the first half. The commitment to the offensive rebounds was phenomenal. They only had 9 for the game. They tied with Boston in terms of offensive rebounds, but it seemed like all of them came in the first half. At least just the ones I remember. There was one possession they had 2 in a row, and they score after getting those offensive rebounds, which obviously that is one of the most backbreaking feelings for a defense, specifically for a defensive team like that. So I thought that was a crucial part, honestly, to the start of the game and just up and down the roster. I mean, just great things to see.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Speaking more to that offensive rebound point, to start the second half, we came out on fire, absolutely huge to start that half. I think I texted someone else, and I might have been you again, and I said, if we come out looking good in the second half, they're going to fold,
Yeah.
and they didn't quite fold. Peyton Pritchard scared me a little bit at the end, but we had an offensive rebound put back in the first minute in that 7-0 run. So to your point, we set the tone again in the second half after we did that to start the game too. You have to think that was something that Doc probably talked about at halftime, reiterated to his team. He's like, hey, this was successful early on. We got to go back to this to start the second half. Tobias listened, offensive rebound put back in the first minute of the third quarter. So
yeah, totally. I absolutely totally believe. I mean, the Sixers won every quarter but the fourth, and at that point, they were pretty much just nursing the lead. They tried to make it interesting right at the end, but there just wasn't quite enough time for them to come all the way back. So, I mean, just looking at some of the higher level stats, I mean, they shot 50% from three, 50% from the field, 40% from three, 85% from the line. They got to the line 27 times. Like, they really, really did well. They won the rebounding battle. Embiid had 5 blocks. I mean, let's talk about the Jaylen Brown block for a second. I mean, first of all, just an absolutely outstanding feat on the hurt knee, and just absolutely, he looked like LeBron James out there.
Yeah, I heard someone, I forget who it was. I was listening to a bunch of people talking about the game today, and they said that when you see your MVP playing with that level of intensity in a game 5 like that, that just inspires all the players around you. You're like, dude, this is who the NBA just named him the best player in the world for the last 365 days. And he's playing at the highest possible level, giving it his 100% all. That's just inspiring to the guys around you. Like, you can't not give your all when you see that. So,
and to play off that point, Harden takes a charge at one point during the game, and I think that's just so important. You said it, just that, like, when your guys, when your stars, when your MVPs are literally giving their body up and going all out, why can't you, as a rotation player getting 15 minutes a game, do the same thing? Or why can't you bust your butt all the way back on defense? And it's really showing up. And I think there's an identity, and there's a self-confidence that hasn't been there, honestly, in a few years. And I was talking to our buddy Sean earlier today, and I was saying this. Remember in the offseason, the whole narrative around the PJ Tucker signing was, oh, he's overpaid. Way too long a contract for a 37-year-old player. And in hindsight, it probably is. It probably is an overpay. But you know what? And here's, I'll bring the point up here. The reason that whatever the dollars and cents me for a 37-year-old guy, average 5 points a game, whatever, on a box score aspect, yes. But there is the Sixers are a better team today than they were 365 days ago, because PJ Tucker is on the team. And for that reason alone, he's worth the contract that they gave him. And he even said it. He said people are not scared, but almost a little watch what they say around Joel. He said, no, screw that. I'll go up and tell him exactly what it is. I'll scream in his ear. I'll do exactly what needs to be said. And whether it be offensive rebound, whether it be yelling at B-ball Paul to get rebounds and really, use his body. I just think that he played such an instrumental role for a guy who had 3 points yesterday and all season, and mainly the last couple weeks. I think it is what you really saw from this guy and everything he's going.
Yep. We got lots of stuff going on.
The Phils! Yeah. We got a walk-off winner for the Phillies live on air here.
They should have been out. Harper grounded into a double play. Bo Bichette sailed the throw over Vlad. We scored on an error. It should be out of the inning right now.
I saw that too. I'm trying to look and come back. Just a great day. Just a great day in Philadelphia.
And also the all NBA teams are being announced. So
right now?
Yeah, as we finish the pod playoffs, we can come back and circle back.
Definitely. So yeah, just talk about PJ Tucker for a sec. I definitely wanted to give him some appreciation.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go to PJ Tucker and Dan Wellhouse on this one. The two who we were, for lack of a better word, fined for tampering with. Couldn't have come up bigger. I mean,
Harden took that pay cut for those two players,
and we tampered. We lost picks, and Dan Wellhouse came in and made layups in transition, which not many guys on our team do. And PJ Tucker, you already talked about it, hit all the points. His influence can't be understated. I don't think he's overpaid at all. We didn't pay him to play in the regular season. We paid him for this right here, and this is
Yep.
what he's doing. He's earning every penny. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got on the Sixers. Shout out B-Ball Paul. He comes in, he gets a crazy up and under layup to go off of a beautiful dish from James Harden on that one.
Yep.
And D'Anthony Melton, who's been great pretty much all playoffs, didn't have a great game, got in some foul trouble early. But I mean, he's been great for us all playoffs too.
Defensively was really, really good.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Daniel had a great game. I mean, the one thing that was evident was his aggression in transition. Like he didn't even want to pass. When he got the ball, he was like, I'm going to the rim and I'm scoring. And you see so many role players so many times come in and they're like, let me make the right play. And it's like, no, go get a shot, go get a bucket. And he did 10 points, 5 rebounds. It's like,
Yep.
and you could literally go up and down the roster. It's like everybody contributed in this game. I mean, George Niang was the only player who played over 10 minutes that didn't score. But he wasn't really a huge factor. You talk about Tyrese Maxey dropping 30 points. That was one thing I feel like it's a good way to frame this argument. It's like you always talk about, is a guy a number one on a championship team? Is a guy a number two on a championship team, right? Or number three? I think it's interesting to talk about like how many games in a playoff series can you win because of this player? I feel like that's an interesting, like your guys are Joel Embiid, and every single game he's going to give you 30 points and however many rebounds, right? More than likely he'll maybe you like he's your guy, right? But then you talk about Harden, you talk about Tyrese Maxey. Harden's pretty much won 2 games by himself this series. You talk about Tyrese Maxey, maybe didn't win this game, but dropped 30 points and played 42 minutes, 7 rebounds. Like there's an argument to be made he won this game in this series. So let me get your thoughts on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I heard Charles talking about it before the game, saying that he said the same thing. He was like, James has won them 2 games. Joel has to win. He's the MVP of the league. He hasn't won them a game yet. I would argue Joel Embiid won them that game last night. Obviously, what Maxey did can't be underrated or not talked about. He dropped 30 points, like you said. He was great, but Joel Embiid dominated that game.
Yeah.
And he won us that game.
And maybe I said that a little bit wrong, because you need to have that number one, right? Like you need to have a guy, but that shows up every game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7. You know what I mean? Like that's the guy that shows up every night. But then when you talk about 2s and 3s, maybe that's where the argument comes around, because
and this kind of gives me a reason to shift into the Celtics a little bit if you're ready to.
Yeah.
I mean, before we do that, another thing I love about the Sixers, you mentioned it earlier, they shot 85% from the line last night. Harlan had a stat last night. They're the best free throw shooting team in the playoffs. You got to love to see it. Embiid, you foul him, it's 2 points more often than not. Harden,
especially as a post player.
It's just great to see that from your team deep in the playoffs.
Yep.
But talking back to that winning games for your team, let's talk about Jayson Tatum a little. I know you're a big Tatum fan. He's a Duke guy. And you look at the box score and you're like, he had 36, 10, and 5. What are you talking about? But I mean, he was 11 of 27 from the field, 3 of 11 from 3. He got to the line 13 times, which you'd like to see. He was a little bit more aggressive going to the rim last night. But I mean, is it wrong to say he's underperformed this entire series? Like,
I don't think it's wrong, but at the same time, we just talked about Tyrese Maxey, your third best player, scoring 30 points. Who's the Celtics' third best player? Marcus Smart was their third leading scorer with 14 points, and I don't really think you are going to rely on and that's where I would almost maybe come to the defense of Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, because every night those guys are required to score. They get 60 points between the two of them. You need other people to step up. Al Horford was absolutely dog shit. Sorry for my language in that game. Derek White didn't shoot the ball well. Malcolm Brogdon didn't shoot the ball well. So I have a hard time putting, and you're right though. He in the last 2 games, he's failed to set the tone for the Celtics. You saw in game 1, James Harden set the tone for the Sixers without Embiid by scoring early and often. Like Tatum has gone scoreless almost in the last 2 first quarters.
Yep.
So that's where you talk about maybe the aggression early. And then when you're down already 15 and then you start to get your points, I can maybe see where that argument could come from. But at the same time, if I'm Jayson Tatum and I'm relying on Marcus Smart as my third, scorer, that makes me uncomfortable if I was a Celtics fan with that. And you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Now let me refute that a little bit. Now I understand Jaylen Brown's in foul trouble last night, so he's not playing as much. But
Yeah.
why is Tatum shooting 11 more shots if Brown's shooting the ball better? I
So
know
this, go
I know
ahead, go ahead.
Tatum's the better player. He is, in my opinion. I mean, he's
Yep.
got a higher ceiling, but Jaylen Brown, the Tatum is a worse, like Brown's a worse matchup for the Sixers than Tatum. We guard Tatum better than we guard Brown. We can't guard Brown. He's
No.
cooked us every single game. He shouldn't be shooting the ball 16 times. He shouldn't be 3 of 6 from 3 when Tatum's 3 of 11 from 3. They got to figure something out and get him the ball more.
Exactly. And this was my whole point after it might have been game one. I think I did a pod a week ago today, and I'm like, why is Jaylen Brown have 10 shots and 8 of them come in the first quarter?
Yep.
And why doesn't he take more than 2 shots? He was 7 for 10 from the field. He was what was he? 3 for 4 from 3. Like his percentages, like you just said, were off the chart. Why isn't he getting more shots? And then that comes back to my whole Joe Mazzulla thing. Like, I think Ime Udoka got the best out of this team last year. Like he stretched them he got them within 2 wins of the NBA finals, right? And now you're talking about a team that people are saying are underperforming. Obviously, they're refusing to give the Sixers credit in this series for what they're doing, but the Celtics were favored. They should have been favored, and they were favored to win the title. Why isn't their coach putting their best players in a better position to succeed? Now, it is the NBA. Your star players, generally make things happen for themselves, especially at this point, especially at this late in a series. But at the same time, is that saying more about Jaylen Brown, or is that saying more about Joe Mazzulla that he's only shooting that many times?
Now, I'll speak to both of them because it's
Right.
a great question. But now, the one thing I will say about Brown, and I mentioned it when I first talked about him, is he's been in foul trouble. He gets some dumb fouls. And I know he's playing aggressively on Harden. I understand that, like, you want to make him work for everything. You want to pick him up full court, but like he gets some stupid reach fouls where he has to come out of the game because of it. So he could definitely do a better job of keeping himself on the floor.
Yep.
As far as getting him shots, I think it's fair to critique Joe Mazzulla on that. I mean, obviously, in the flow of the game, once it starts happening, sometimes you don't touch the ball for a couple minutes. That's just how the game goes sometimes. But you get a stoppage of play and you get the ball to him. You draw up a set. You can
Exactly.
you can control certain things. So definitely got to put a little bit of blame there. One thing about Mazzulla, now I'm not trying to make excuses for him. Obviously, he's a first-time head coach.
Correct.
He's 32, 34,
Correct.
32 years old.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, his entire assistant coaching staff, I'm not sure who they are. I'm sure they have one or two, a couple experienced guys there, but I'm pretty sure there was a lot of turnover from the Ime Udoka assistant coaching tree. Damon Stoudemire was a veteran presence who was on that coaching staff. Obviously, Ime was doing a great job in that.
I got some names for you.
Yeah. So
yeah, they got Damon Stoudemire,
he's
Aaron Miles. Yeah, Damon Stoudemire, Aaron Miles. The name Aaron Miles is familiar. Ben Sullivan's assistant, DJ McLeay. Isn't that Kendall's guy?
I don't know. I thought Damon Stoudemire was gone. Maybe I heard it wrong.
I'm looking at the Celtics page right now.
Okay.
Joe Mazzulla, Ben Sullivan, Damon Stoudemire, Aaron Miles, Tony Dobbins, DJ McLeay. But like exactly, like you look at, for example, you look at the Warriors staff. You got obviously Steve Kerr, but then your assistant coaches are hold on, let me pull this up.
You know what? I forgot. This was my fault. Not Damon Stoudemire, a better one, Will Hardy. Will Hardy was their top assistant last year, and Ime Udoka and Will Hardy were
okay, yeah,
elite on that coach. Joe Mazzulla was the third assistant coach last year, and,
right.
He's thrust into the head coaching role, and you can't simulate what he's experiencing
but at the same time, they just gave him a contract extension mid-season. So
absolutely. That's a lot of trust,
right? And they didn't have to do that. They could have waited until after the season and then said, all right, we're going to bring you back and keep it going. Now they're almost, they could fire him at any time, but like that gives me confidence. Like, okay, now this guy really knows what he's doing, blah, blah, blah. Or is he just kind of, with the team? And obviously he's doing a lot. I don't want to like hate
He's
on the guy.
learning on the fly.
He's one of 30. You know what I mean?
He's
So
learning on the fly. He's 32 years old. And I heard another good point. It was like, there's so much that goes into coaching a game 5 like that goes way beyond what your game plan is. Like,
yeah, and that's where Doc Rivers has been phenomenal.
for example, your presence on the sideline,
yeah,
working a referee, like how you're holding yourself on the sideline, as silly as it sounds, and how you're talking to the refs and talking to your players, like that's just so crucial, and people don't really probably think about that, and he's never been in that spot before. So Doc Rivers has worked a referee 1,500 times in his career, like, so it's just a little bit different.
I totally agree. I think it's interesting. I think it's a great conversation, especially because, like you just said, Jaylen Brown 9 of 16 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. Like we literally were talking about this on the phone. We were talking about the best twos in the league. You know, we were talking about Devin Booker and, you know, Jaylen Brown and all these guys, and you know, then you can start to nitpick as you start to talk about these like elite of the elite guys. And I thought, I think that's a really, really interesting conversation to have. Obviously the Sixers get the win. They go back home up 3-2. Honestly, as nervous as I would be if they lost game 5 and they were facing elimination going back to Wells Fargo Center. But you're hearing all the right things out of practice today. It's a must win. There's no other question about it. They're not worried about game 7. It's right now. Game 7 is game 6. So I like hearing that. I think it's a different mindset. James Harden, I think, has been a real calming presence, surprisingly, for the team, even after game 1. It's only one game. Every time they make a run, he just kind of saunders back to the huddle, like, and I and some might take that as almost like, you know, not engaged or whatever, but it's like, I feel like that's important because you let PJ Tucker bark at your guys. And then when you look at your stars, they're calm, cool, collected. They're going back to the huddle. They're not getting frustrated generally. I mean, Harden definitely barks at some guys and he'll tell them where they got to go and all that. But I think it's important that the veterans are stepping. I mean, there's, I think they probably have a more veteran team than the Celtics. It's not that crazy to say, right? I mean, they got an extremely experienced squad, and at the end of the day, maybe that's the difference, and maybe that's what it comes around to now. Anything else on this game as we kind of wrap up our discussion with these two teams? Are one win away.
I love one more.
If they get the win, they'll more than likely face the Miami Heat, who are up.
Go Knicks. Go. You hear me, Nick Jackson? Go.
Don't forget River Squares, where you can win up to $10,000 bonus money. Because you get a square at no extra cost.
Close that tab, bro. But yeah, so we got the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks in their series. They're about to tip off actually tonight as we're recording this. So there may even be a winner by the time they come around. Honestly, I expect Miami to win. I think they have a better identity. They have better star player. They have more experience in the moment, and they have a better coach. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. I know you're deathly afraid of Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler. Talk about just the redemption tour. If Embiid goes through the Celtics, then he goes through Jimmy Butler, and then faces the Joker in the NBA Finals. I mean, if Embiid could go through that gauntlet, I think that would be a big time boost in terms of just the narratives that come out. I think nationally, because I think everybody regional.
I thought about the same thing the other day, not necessarily going through it in that order. Just I thought about, and we're getting so far ahead of ourselves. It's 3-2 in the Eastern Conference semifinal,
right, but
it's fun to talk about, especially after the game we watched last night. So I just thought to myself, if Embiid were to win the MVP this year, and we somehow won the finals, you have to assume we win the finals and he's the finals MVP. Unless Harden has another couple 40-point games, which he's obviously capable of, but
more than likely JoJo,
the best player wins the MVP. It's like
Iguodala. I want to hear it.
Danwell House, yeah. It's like
for Garden, Jayson Tatum.
it's like
for Garden, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray.
It's like how like Embiid has to be an all-time great if he does that.
I mean, Reggie Miller called him a Hall of Famer last night.
Well, I already think, but I mean like a level above,
like an inner circle Hall of Famer,
like a top 25.
Yeah, I mean, back-to-back scoring titles, MVP, all defensive teams, potentially. I mean, obviously, we're getting way ahead of ourselves when you put that on there, but finals MVP. I mean, you're definitely inconsistent. I mean, he's probably already amongst the likes of a Patrick Ewing.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't watch Ewing.
And then when you look at like the skill level, it's like that's not even close. Obviously, Patrick's career was incredible, great defender, but like skill-wise,
everyone compares him to Hakeem.
Yeah, I mean, Hakeem's better. He won 2 championships.
Oh, you got lucky, Hakeem. I mean, that's all I'm. Yeah, right. And 2 finals MVPs.
My point being, he jumps a lot. Like,
oh my God,
it goes without saying.
He's probably outside the 50. He's probably in that 50 range, maybe. He would jump 20 spots.
It's one of the great seasons. It's one of the great seasons ever. Like, you talk about, like, I know he's got James Harden. James Harden was an MVP 6 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was. But like, you talk about Dirk winning a championship. You talk about guys putting the team on their back and winning a championship. Like,
yeah. And I think that you need those guys though. Like there's no such thing as a Dirk championship team, I don't think, anymore. Like you can't have that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe like that kind of is like out of contact, but like you talk about the teams left in the finals. I mean, maybe the Heat would be the closest example, but I'd probably take Bam over maybe any player on that Mavericks team. Like, I don't know, Jason Kidd, Jason Terry, Tyson Chandler. Like
a lot of experience.
Fair. Maybe Miami's that example, but I don't know. I just feel like there's that necessary like second star, third star. You know what I mean? Before, and you know,
I'd even give Giannis some credit on it. And I'm the biggest Drew Holiday fan ever, but I mean, him and Chris Middleton are both very good players, but
at the end of the day, in that finals in 2021, the Bucks don't win without Chris Middleton.
Absolutely.
He created shots on the perimeter that Giannis flat out couldn't do. Like he could not get those shots, and Chris Middleton hit contested jumpers late in the fourth quarters of those games to seal the deal. And you know, Chris Middleton's been getting a lot of heat, I feel like, especially this year, and like for being hurt and all that stuff. But like they don't win that, and you could say that about a number of people, but like the perimeter creation of Chris Middleton in that series was phenomenal. And I think it was, you know, a keystone reason why they were raising the Larry O.B. You know what I mean? So
we can't even talk about the Cavs next or the Heat next. We're just talking about anything.
Well, I just, you know, I think it's important. I mean, because that series it's about to go right now is 3-1. Miami's pretty much been dominating. And let's talk about Miami. I mean, for a hot second, 8 seed, you know, making it all the way to the finals. What's your take on the bubble wasn't a fluke with the Lakers and the Heat doing so well?
I'm one of the firm believers in the bubble showed who like really just like their life was basketball. Like people who were okay with just doing nothing but basketball thrived in that type
TJ Warren.
Yeah. Jamal Murray.
50 points.
LeBron.
Right. Well, I brought it up because the funny thing is there's 2 players on the Lakers that are still on the team from that 2020 team. And most of the Heat team is still there. But I'm just saying, I think that's an interesting, you know,
they just do things the right way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of Miami. I think that would be a dogfight series. Although I do think, you know, Giannis and Embiid, I think are way different game plans for Miami. You know, they have Bam, who's probably one of the better options to guard Embiid, you know, in the game. But at the same time, there really is none at the end of the day. So I think that's going to be really important. We'll touch on the West real quick as we kind of wrap up the show.
Big one for you tonight, Noah. How are you?
So
I'll ask the questions here. You answer.
All right.
So we've got Lakers Warriors tonight. What's tip off? 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
10 p.m. tip off. We're back in Golden State. Noah's got his gear on under the hood. So obviously you got to be feeling pretty good about being back in Golden State. Golden State, obviously a much better team at home than when they leave Oracle. Yep. But how Obviously, I assume you think they're going to win tonight. 7.5-point favorite last time I saw. Do you think this series goes 7? I'll say first. And if it does, do you think the Warriors are going to be able to pull a 3-1 comeback here?
So, like, here's what it comes down to me. I'm not even thinking about game 7 yet. All I'm thinking about is game 6. I think that they have obviously a great chance to win this game. The 7.5-point favorites. They're at home. Role players play better at home in the playoffs. You would expect Dante DiVincenzo to shoot the ball well. You would expect Jordan Poole to shoot the ball well, even though I got some things to say about him. You'd expect Wiggins to shoot the ball well. You'd expect a lot of these guys at home to get going. I expect Steph Curry to go absolutely ballistic. I expect Klay Thompson to make shots. I think they handle this game. They understand what it means. I hope Draymond actually puts his pride to the side and actually goes balls to the wall and like is not nervous about guarding LeBron James, because I think that has just been like a little subplot to this series. Like, he went at De'Aaron Fox and verbally assaulted him multiple times in that series with Sacramento. And, did he take him out of his game a little bit? I don't know. But I think it's a better chance than not that his verbal, I think it's fair to say his verbal game is a huge reason why the Warriors have been successful over the course of the last 8 years. And the fact that he's such good friends with LeBron and Anthony Davis, maybe that's taking a hit. I don't know. But at the same time, like, he doesn't play. Like, he mentioned on his podcast last year in the finals, like, the one game I think he got thrown out. He had 2 technicals. He mucked it up with everybody. And he's like, sometimes we have a better chance of us winning with me getting thrown out because of the energy it provides and like just the muck up nature it can get. And I don't think he would get thrown out of this series. Like, I don't see him ever going like face to face with LeBron and like challenging him. I just don't. And when he's not playing that way, it's tough for him to really be as good as he can be. And so when I talk about all that, I think they win game 5. I think they win game 6 because they should have won game 4. And maybe it's just crazy, but like, they were up all game in game 4. Every time the Lakers got close, they kicked it out to 8. Every time it got close, they kicked it out to 6, 7, 8. And then they absolutely fell apart down the stretch. And even then, they still could have won. Klay Thompson took some crazy shots at the very end of the game that he makes. But at the same time, it's like, Chuck, dude, you can get that shot 10 seconds later, and it's the same shot. So it was a little frustrating. At the same time, like, a lot of people bring up the fact that they came back from 3-1 previously against Oklahoma City a couple years ago. The same way, they had 5-7 at home. But I'll bring up point number 1. They were a lot younger then. Point number 2, they weren't playing LeBron James. I think that is just like
that's probably a pretty big one. Yeah.
It's just like the experience on the other side is tough. Like, if they go back to Chase Center, like, it should be a pick 'em, honestly. Like, I know they'd probably be favored for game 7, but like, I think it would just be a pick 'em. If they can get to a game 7, at the end of the day, I'll take that, and I think just because it's 3-1, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I think they win tonight. And I think they have the spread will probably be like, the spread was -3 in game 4. I could see the same exact spread. And you're talking about a 1 possession game, I think they probably have I think they have a good a chance as anybody to do this. Yeah. And as the series goes on, those old legs over there in LA, like Lonnie Walker, Redding zone, drops 15 points in the 4th quarter. Like,
he's got fresh legs.
Yeah, fresh legs, but like, Chuck, come on. 15 in the 4th quarter? Right in Steph's face. Give me that. It was hard to watch, dude. It was deflating.
It's a tough shot.
It was deflating. So
I think the Warriors, I know we have to move on. We don't have much time. I think the Warriors need to
we'll rerun it if we have to.
Put Anthony Davis into ball screens.
They did it all game.
I know.
And it was I don't know why they went away from it. Like, and then another thing they did was they tried to put him on Wiggins so he could play that short corner, like, rotation spot. But then, they started figuring it out, and it was just easy offense all night. And the 4th quarter, I feel like they just refused to go on it. Shout out to Anthony Davis for staying in front of Steph on that the last couple possessions. I mean, the first shot, a little Dirk step back, I thought he hit. And then once he took the 3, I didn't really see that one going in. He looked like he had to really get it over Anthony Davis. So that was tough. But I agree with you. I think it's ball screen Anthony Davis all day. All day.
Yep.
And another thing they did was put Vanderbilt on Draymond. So when he came to screen for Steph, they would just switch it right away. And then Vanderbilt would be on him instead of picking him up 94 feet, which is a nice adjustment from Darwin Ham. But I think Golden State clearly just went right away from that and just said, AD, come here, screen here, and then you're on an island. But I don't know, dude. I think I'm nervous, honestly, like about tonight. Like I know I said I'm looking forward to like game 6, and I think that would be it. But like Golden State's prone to just
You got to be nervous. You're playing LeBron.
they're prone to lay an egg. And I think if they can control the pace, much like the Sixers did yesterday, controlling the pace against a team that wants to play fast, you know, but I could see this following a very similar script to game 2. LA gets out to an early lead. It's low scoring. And then second, third quarter, Golden State extends the lead. LeBron and AD play very few minutes in the fourth quarter, and they rest up going back to game 6 on Friday night.
I would sleep well if that's how it goes tonight.
I turned the game off before it ended in game 2.
You'd love to do that.
I would love that. But I don't know. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see. I can't wait. But it's tough, man. I mean, real quick, we'll run it if we get talking here. What do you think of the proposed trade by Colin Cowherd? Obviously, it's like such a random hypothetical trade, but I wanted, because we're talking about 2 of the players that we've been talking about all episode. It was Jaylen Brown pretty much for Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. Who says no?
Celtics.
The Celtics say no. See, I'm almost thinking in my head, like, I wouldn't want to get rid of Andrew Wiggins if I'm Golden State.
That may be true, but Jaylen Brown's better, and Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins is better than Jordan Poole. So
I agree, 100%. Andrew Wiggins is better than
Celtics.
Poole.
Just would never do it.
Yeah, I think that'd be an interesting deal, but I don't think they would. I don't think they would do that one. I was an interesting hypothetical though, because I think Poole's got to figure it out, dude.
Yeah, he does.
How are you gonna get the bag and then not show up? I don't know. His attitude has been frustrating too, especially as a fan. It's pretty much anointed as the second coming of Steph Curry last year. You know what I mean? Like, he was the ball handler behind him, and
Which he
I don't know.
should.
Maybe he wants to be the guy. I don't know.
Him and Jaylen Green can go be the guys together.
And Kuminga, dude. Kuminga's attitude. Like, it's so funny how Moses Moody is the guy that is the biggest contributor, like right now, at least out of those 4. You know what I mean? And I don't want to hate on Poole too much because he was a big reason in the title last year. But at the same time, like, Moody was the 14th pick a couple years ago. Wiseman's been traded. Kuminga's getting DMPs. And Moody is playing in the fourth quarter against the Lakers. So, I don't know. But we'll see. They got the game tonight against the Lakers. I'll take Warriors -7.5, although I'm nervous with that money. But yeah, that's going to wrap up the show for today. I got some great conversation about basketball philosophy and all that stuff. So definitely we'll get back on as the playoffs progress. Definitely check the description below for all our social media handles. Thanks, Connor, again for hopping on. We'll look forward to having you on again. And thanks for tuning in, everybody at home. We look forward to seeing you back here again next time.